Okay. So let's take a moment to settle in. You maybe have had a busy day. Maybe you had to kind of rush a bit to connect with the call. So let's just take a few seconds to settle in, find our seat, our posture, and really arrive. Feeling ourselves present, whatever that means. We may have a lot of mind activity, it's perfectly fine. We may have sensations in the body related to our emotional state or not, it's fine. Just allowing it all to be exactly how it is in the moment. It's often said that meditation is about training, just kind of training ourselves to have the capacity to be completely present and equanimous, which means basically allowing what is. And it can be difficult to shift our relationship to our experience. And what's difficult is the mind is such a strong force for most of us, the stories it tells, the need to know, to fix, to resolve, to plan, pushing away unpleasant, clinging to pleasant. And there's a strong relationship, of course, between mind and our emotions. So I thought today we could practice a little bit with being with the emotions, with the physical experience of emotions in a way that does not really include the mind. And it can feel sometimes like there's a strong magnet between the physical expression of our emotions and thoughts. So during this practice, I'd like to try to bring an awareness to that relationship if it's present, and to intentionally relax our grip, our contraction on thoughts, and really open to the kind of pure experience of our emotions that's not mediated by that conceptual thinking mind. So, in order to do that, let's just do a little check in the physical sensations of the body and see if you can get a sense of where you're at emotionally. And there may be a number of emotions present at the same time. So you can just notice that. You might notice there's a very clear kind of emotional state you're in, maybe a little anxious, a little stressed, feeling peaceful, feeling gratitude or happiness. And we don't even need to put a name on what we're experiencing in this emotional space, but just knowing whether or not there is a sense of an emotion active in the somatic or body space. And we're going to try to not observe this emotion kind of from a viewpoint of the head. Sometimes we think of our awareness, our consciousness being located in the head, and we're looking at things from that place. But I would invite you to kind of let the awareness settle and drop into the areas of the body that you feel are expressing your emotion in this moment. And if you don't feel a strong emotion present, it may be an indication that you're feeling quite peaceful, quite neutral. So you can actually experience that kind of quiet, tranquil experience in the body. If you are locating a sensation that you feel is related to your emotions, it could be in the area of the heart, could be in the throat, the belly, solar plexus. It really could show up anywhere. And it's okay to guess. I feel this tightness in my solar plexus. I feel like that's because I'm a little nervous. I'm a little anxious. I don't think it's because I ate too much chocolate before the call. So, it's okay to kind of just guess. We don't have to know for certain the source of these physical sensations. And if there is a lot going on in the body, just maybe zoom in on the sensations that are the loudest, that are at the forefront. And we're going to allow that awareness to, if it hasn't already, kind of drop into that area of the body so that the knowing or awareness of this emotional sensation is happening right within it, not from a distance. And we may notice that there is a little bit of resistance that may be present. If we're experiencing some contraction or heaviness, for feeling some discomfort, we may notice that we're bracing against, even subtly resisting a complete experience of this sensation. So do your best to fully open and even be a little curious. What is happening here? How can I learn more? Interesting. Feels like a little bit of a pressure in my upper chest that maybe is about the size of a dinner plate. Interesting. And there's a bit of movement within the sensation, a little bit of a vibration, or maybe waves. And as I'm hanging out in this space, maybe noticing that the sensation is growing in intensity or lessening. And it's really important that we do not get caught in any story around why this emotional sensation is present. It doesn't matter how juicy the story is, how justified we are in believing it, any history. if we notice that our attention has gotten hooked by some type of thought process, this is here because um, my mother was upset today when I talked to her, so I'm feeling some tension, some sadness. I really need to be willing to drop that story. I need to be willing to drop any sense of knowing why this particular sensation is here, even if it seems obvious. We're going to try to be with the sensation without the mind. We don't need to refer to the mind at all to be with what's happening in this moment. And we also might notice some stories that are quite beautiful around the sensation. And we can drop those too. We can be free of the mind, free of the mind's tendency to label things as good and bad, as pleasant or unpleasant. To know the reason that we're having the experience we're having. Oftentimes, when we're having a challenging emotion, there is this need to have it be different, to find a way to be rid of our experience. So we're training our ability to be truly present with what is, and dropping the poor me stories and dropping the wonderful me stories, and just be free of yourself, the mind. And sometimes when we're completely open to our experience, it can intensify, especially around the emotional experience. We may find there's a welling up of intense emotion, perhaps a release can come in the form of tears, of energetic contractions, releases in the body, of relaxation through the body, of a feeling of opening completely to being free of the body. And if you ever find that it's a little too much, that it's a little overwhelming, you always have a choice when you practice to continue with a particular technique, or if it's feeling a little unstable. In this particular case, you could always kind of anchor your attention away from the emotional space. So, for example, you could put your attention in the feeling of your feet or your hands, to sounds in the environment around you, to things you might see in the room around you. Because we want to take care. For getting the message that it's just a little too much for us in this moment to be completely open to an aspect of our experience. Then we can place our attention somewhere more neutral. And sometimes we'll get a little that inner commentary happening, maybe judging our experience. You can notice if you're getting some of that inner auditory thinking happening. Is that your own voice that you hear? And becoming disinterested in what it's saying. That is just the mind cranking out its thing. That's not a problem. The mind will do that. But we're not going to engage with any thoughts. And maybe the thoughts that do arise have an impact on your emotional space, which is perfectly fine. So we can just continue to be with those sensations in the body. They may be changing moment to moment. Your emotions may be changing throughout the practice. So just noticing what's happening. What are the physical sensations that are arising and passing without any need to go into the story? Being spiritual has nothing to do with maintaining peace or happiness or joy. It's about being here with what is happening without any argument. Without needing to play the victim. And this takes a lot of courage. And it can take a lot of repeating that process. The mind lands on a thought, it contracts on it, we get caught by it, we begin to think it's actually giving us information. Oftentimes, information that causes our suffering. And we've been taught our whole life to rely on that. So we're learning through these practices to have a more real relationship to mind. To trust that we can be without going through the filter of the mind. And what we're learning to be is no one. To be free of that limited, conditioned sense of self. Free of that reactive habit of mind that needs to protect and defend. So for these last few minutes of our practice, I would love to kind of shift gears into more of a metta or loving kindness practice. So here we are going to participate in the meditation a little more deliberately. So instead of passively observing and being with the emotional state, I would invite you to try to cultivate, if it's not already there, some positivity. And you can do that by thinking of a word that makes you happy: sunshine, sparkles, coffee. It could be a mantra, a prayer. You could picture in your mind someone you care about, a pet, a place in nature, a song you can hear in your mind that makes you happy. And you can still track what that experience is like in the body. And if you try to generate that positivity with a particular thought or memory or image and it's not quite working, try something else. And it doesn't have to trigger some big, epic, unconditional love for all of humanity. It could be a gentle opening of gratitude or humor or happiness. And if it's challenging for you, it's very common for this type of practice can be challenging. So just hold that gently with compassion. And we can even hold our hand to our heart if we feel like that is something that would feel like caring and comforting. And if we're able to cultivate beautiful, positive emotions, we can invite that to grow. We can allow that to fill our own body, to spread beyond our body, to the others on this call, to all beings that we know in our life or don't know, all creatures, the planet. And if that's not available for you, yes, then we accept that as what is. Sometimes we'll enjoy a big wave of positive emotion, and then on its heels will come a challenging emotion. And again, that can be quite common. We kind of open the gates to everything. So if that happens for you, we can again just be present with the physical experience of the sensations of emotion without needing to have a meaning or story or remedy.